Howdy, my name's Ding Dong, and today looks like a fine day to shoot some cattle.
Guess not. Last night, they put up on my light. Nice watch.
Now, y'all must understand, the hunting cattle is a very dangerous sport, very rigorous. Back in my country, my ancestors used a certain method to hunt cattle. Now, this higher plant that you see is especially useful for tracking cattle. You must be asking yourself, how does this plant stay alive? Well, it's a process called photosynthesis. What happens is on this very bright day, sunlight comes down and hits this plant. And when sunlight hits this plant, it goes through a series of reactions.
Well, hello there, little fella.
Hello.
Hey there, little fella.
Hello.
So, I heard this little boy was trying to explain photosynthesis, and he don't know nothing about it. Now you see here, over yonder, we got ourselves a tree.
It's a pretty buddy.
I know, little buddy. Anyway, the tree has what is known as chloroplast inside many of the cells. Now, up there is the sunlight. The sunlight comes down to the chloroplast, and it is absorbed in the chloroplast and creates light energy. Now, the light energy is then taken to an H2O molecule, and it is split into hydrogen and oxygen. Now, that oxygen, the plant don't need it, because this here takes carbon dioxide, so the oxygen is released out, and it is a waste, and the hydrogen is taken to the stroma.
Now, the remaining energy from that process, known as the light-dependent reactions, then goes into the stroma along with the hydrogen in a process known as the light-independent reactions. Here, the stroma combines hydrogen with the carbon dioxide, where the carbon dioxide enters through the leaf, and it is then combined into a carbohydrate known as glucose. There's been breaking news that Alex Waskowitz has bought his first Donald Trump Make America Great Again hat.
Jimmy Pritz, he has swallowed a hockey stick whole.
Jeremy Wenger is lost at sea, as expected.
And Ryan Dunn is crying because the Kermit the Frog memes are now dead.
Now, you all must be wondering how this fine, attractive, handsome, young teenage male was able to climb those steps and run so quickly. Now, it's actually a process called cellular respiration which allowed him to do this. And the first part of this process is known as glycolysis. Glycolysis is a 10-step process that occurs in the cytoplasm, which converts each molecule of glucose into 2 molecules of pyruvic acid, which is a 3-carbon molecule.
This process is an anaerobic process, which means that no oxygen is required.
Now, this process creates a net yield of 2 ATP per glucose molecule, meaning 2 ATP go in and it produces 4, but then 2 ATP are required to restart this process, so that is why there's a net of 2 ATP. There's a net yield of 2 NADH per glucose, and this is a coenzyme that serves as a carrier for electrons and ions, and which is liberated as glucose is oxidized. Yeah. Now, just as ATP was generated in glycolysis, NADPH in photosynthesis, because photosynthesis and cellular respiration are very alike, NADPH is created what is light-dependent reactions, and it is then carried to the light-independent reactions, which is used as a reducing agent in the Calvin cycle, which produces monosaccharides which the plant uses.
The second step in cellular respiration is known as the citric acid cycle. This occurs in the mitochondrial matrix. The acetyl group detaches from the coenzyme A and enters the reaction cycle.
This process is an aerobic process, which means it will only proceed in the presence of oxygen.
It has a net yield of 6 NADH and 2 FADH2. In this stage of cellular respiration, the oxidation of glucose to carbon dioxide is completed.
The net yield in this process is 2 ATP per glucose molecule per 2 acetyl-CoA. The third and final step of cellular respiration is the electron transport chain. This consists of a series of enzymes on the inner mitochondrial membrane. Electrons are released from NADH and from FADH2, and as they are passed along a series of enzymes, they give up energy, which is used to fuel a process called chemiosmosis, by which H+ ions are actively transported across the inner mitochondrial membrane into the outer mitochondrial compartment. The H+ ions then flow back through the special pores of the membrane, a process that is thought to drive the process of ATP synthesis.
After this process is over, a net yield of 34 ATP are produced per glucose molecule, meaning for every glucose molecule there are 34 ATP molecules produced.
In this specific process, 26 to 28 ATP are formed, but because of the other two processes, glycolysis and the citric acid cycle, this creates a total of 34 to 36, or 32 to 34 ATP.
Also, at the end of this process, a total of 6 H2O molecules are formed when the electrons unite with the oxygen at the end of the electron transport chain.